Alright, hello, welcome. This is going to be a Gundam video. This is, of course, going to talk about the fighting games that we saw before in the poll for the channel. And, of course, I asked, what got you into the fighting games? Or has anybody played the fighting games for any of the Gundam franchise? An overwhelming percent, about 15 people, said the Versus and Maxi Boost series. Then you got 18% saying they did the Battle Assault series. And then surprising 7 people, or 25%, said the Dynasty Warriors Gundam local multiplayer, which is quite interesting because I personally remember playing it myself, and it was kind of interesting. But again, let's get straight into that. So the first is, of course, going to be talking about the Versus local multiplayer. Now, again, I don't have any footage. I don't think there's any footage around of the local multiplayer, but it was basically just a split screen battle where you can walk onto your opponent and deal damage and defeat them. So it was cool. Again, in a game primarily for, fighting hordes of enemies, it's nice to see that they have sort of a fighting game mode in it. The second is, of course, going to be talking about the Battle Assault series, which, if I look at the poll again, most people did say they played it. And of course, the only one I remember, I personally haven't played any of them, but the only one I remember is, of course, the Seed one, because, I looked at it, and it was the only one that released in America, and apparently it's $98 on Amazon, so, quite pricey. But, again, this was a side-scroller, fighter that, it's a 2D fighter. You basically can do moves and punches and all this other such, to deal damage to your opponents, combos, whichever. So, it's cool. I'm glad that this type of game came out, and of course, the Dynasty Warriors. But then we get to Endless Duel, and Endless Duel is the same thing, but it was on the Famicom. Now, I personally have played this one, actually, through sources, and it's kind of interesting. Again, it's a Famicom game, so it's not going to be anything super crazy in terms of, side scroll or beat 'em ups, but hey, it gets the job done, and it's very serviceable. I don't think anybody said it during this, so I guess maybe I'm the only person on here that has, but it was kind of interesting. And of course, finally, we're going to talk about the Gundam Versus franchise. Now again, the reason I talked about the Gundam Versus franchise last is, one, it was the most, shown, and it's been the most shown in the United States, of course, with Gundam Versus and Gundam Maxi Boost on, and possibly X Boost. We don't know if it's going to be releasing out in the US, but again, that type of game was featured in the US a lot more than all of the others I mentioned. But also, its interface has something very similar to SC Gundam Battle Alliance. So of course, in SC Gundam Battle Alliance, you have your main, your sub 1, and your sub 2 at the bottom right section of the screen. Funnily enough, the Gundam Versus interface has that as well on the right side of the screen, showing your sub, your main, your charge, special attack, special attacks, whatever. So you basically have literally everything at your disposal, which is really cool. I personally love that. Again, these games sort of homogenize the HUD to a way. Again, I don't think you had the HP bar all the way at the top of the screen. In terms of the Versus, you had the bar wherever your opponent was, whereas in Battle Alliance, you sort of have it where your opponent is, if it's not a boss, but if it's a boss, you can see it at the top of the screen, or Mobile Army, you can see it at the top of the screen. So it's sort of like Dark Souls-esque, because you can see it, but I appreciate that the UI has sort of conformed to it. Again, it is a very long series. It started with Federation versus Xeon, of course, all the way down to Extreme Versus, which Extreme Versus Maxi Boost on. Came out, or Extreme Versus 2, which was in 2018. So, it's cool. I like it. Again, I just wanted to make this video because, again, I don't necessarily branch out anything from Battle Alliance or Evolution, so I wanted to make something different, for one. 2, it was related to a poll, so of course I had to make a video on it. And 3, that little tidbit where the Versus and SC Gundam Battle Alliance sort of have the same HUD at the time. So again, if you did enjoy this video, you can of course leave a like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye!